The Knicks dominate worldwide and trouble down I-95. This is EJ Stewart, Tommy Beer. This is Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast and Audacy WFAN original. A lot to get to on this episode. So we'll be talking about some Knicks stars playing really well overseas. We have RJ Barrett, we have Jalen Brunson, both playing for their respective national teams. Both had absolutely monster games this weekend. We'll talk about exactly what they did and if it's a precursor maybe to what we'll be seeing from them during their NBA season with the Knicks. Also, more trouble in Philadelphia. As you saw, James Harden requested a trade. Sixers said, we'll try to trade him. Then last week they said, actually, no, we're going to keep him here. And it doesn't sound like he's too happy about that. So we'll give you the latest on his comments and whether or not it could impact Joel Embiid, who, of course, has been linked to the Knicks all throughout this offseason. And finally, NBA schedule comes out later this week. We'll have a second podcast where we'll really be able to talk about the full schedule that comes out on Thursday. We record this on Wednesday. But we are getting some nuggets, some pieces of the schedule for the Knicks, some important dates that we'll get you guys on. Knicks are playing on Christmas Day. We'll tell you guys about that. Knicks also have their in-season tournament schedule unveiled for the group play, so we'll talk about that as well. So plenty to get to on this episode of Orange Blue Bloods. All those topics and more coming at you right now.
If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
Like I said, it's EJ Stewart, Tommy Beer. Joins me as always. Tommy, how you feeling? What's going on, man?
I'm feeling better than Sixers fans. Let's say that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling better than the city of brotherly love. We know that the NBA, delivers constant drama, and there is a situation unfolding in Philly. We'll keep an eye on. But first, let's chat about Americans abroad, specifically orange and blue jerseyed Americans put in some work in FIBA.
Let's do it. So again, this is Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast and Audacy WFAN original. You can get this wherever you get your podcasts, including the free Audacy app. Be sure to hit the auto download feature on your streaming service to get these episodes every time we drop. Also, make sure you give us a review on the podcast as well if you would like to do that. Give us 5 stars if you're enjoying the show. Also, be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. You can find the full episodes of the podcast and snippets from the show on the WFAN channel is where you'll find that stuff. So the Knicks stars looking sharp in the international tune-up stage of their ramp-up to the FIBA World Cup that happens later this month. Jalen Brunson pitched a perfect game in Team USA's win over Spain on Sunday. Team USA still undefeated during this exhibition run here. Jalen Brunson, 9 for 9 from the field in his 21-point effort in the win over Spain for Team USA. Meanwhile, RJ Barrett. Now we talked about the American. Now we got the Canadian side. RJ Barrett, a monster game as well over the weekend in their Canada's overtime win over Germany. He had 31 points in this one. He had 13 for 14 shooting in this one. 11 of Canada's 17 points in the victory. Bucket to send the game to overtime. Bucket to put Canada ahead. A dominant performance from RJ Barrett. Josh Hart, by the way, also finally getting some action after he was sitting out for a while as they tried to negotiate his contract. He was getting rest, so he also made his Team USA debut as well. But Barrett and Brunson really showing themselves in a really impressive way so far in this international stage. Tommy, how impressive have you been with Barrett and Brunson so far?
Hard not to be impressed, DJ. You talked about it on Sunday. They scored in respective Team Canada and Team USA wins. They scored a combined 53 points on 22 of 23 shooting. You're not going to get much better than that. Again, exhibition. We're not going to put too much stock into it. Surrounded by other great players. So we're not going to go crazy. We're not going to say, this is automatically means that an MVP season is incoming. But certainly, encouraging. It's good to see RJ playing with another all NBA talent in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, kind of established himself as at least for one game, the best player on the floor by a wide margin. And also with Brunson, I think in addition to the offensive efficiency, which we know that he can do. We've spent the better part of the last 12 months or so watching that up close and personal during the regular season, then even more so in the postseason. It's encouraging to see how Kerr and all his teammates really seem to lean on him and kind of point out him as the leader. Again, as we've talked about time and again, so much of the greatness of Jalen Brunson is his production on the court, but there's a slice there that goes into his overall value. That's his leadership and confidence and just kind of the way he leads the troops on the court. And for him to kind of step into that leadership role as a 26-year-old on Team USA. Again, this is not the 32-year-old Jordan and Magic and Bird, on the tail end of their careers.
Right.
There's a lot of younger guys and not many old school respected veterans on the squad. But again, a lot of prideful, great players. So it's great to see Brunson kind of establish himself as that alpha in Team USA.
Yeah, on the Brunson note, I mean, I'm really excited for what we're going to see from Jalen Brunson this upcoming season. I think perhaps somehow he may still be underrated, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, I mean, I'll be honest, coming into Team USA, I thought he should start. I thought he would be the starting point guard. But given some of the other high-end talent, some guys that people look at as future superstars in this league, I thought maybe we see Jalen Brunson maybe kind of take a back seat a little bit at least. Maybe he kind of, runs the team, but really doesn't look for a shot or really doesn't play all that aggressive. I mean, Jalen Brunson is the best player on Team USA. And I don't know if it's even really that close when I watch these games. I mean, he the way he orchestrates the team, the way he knows where everybody is. I mean, I think his passing has been great so far in this tournament and these exhibition games as well. But then again, the scoring efficiency, and it just looks like he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. It's almost like he's like, oh, okay, we need to get some buckets. All right, let me just rattle off 3 or 4 in a row here and get us, back up to a 10-point lead. Oh, we need to get some guys some shots. Okay, let me get some guys open. I mean, the way he's able to control the floor and dominate the game right now is really impressive. And I think the Knicks should be excited because I think what you saw last season was not some fluke. I don't think any of us thought it was, but I think there was kind of this idea that, Jalen Brunson is playing with guys who were, top number 1 picks in the draft, like, a guy like Anthony Edwards. He's playing with guys that were lottery picks, guys that were, again, very highly regarded. And, you have this guy, 2nd-round pick, undersized. You kind of wondered, like, how would he fare amongst some of the most impressive athletes the NBA has to offer? The fact that he's come in and he's, like, taking over the team, and it's essentially his team, and you have a multiple-time NBA championship coach in Steve Kerr pretty much identifying almost immediately that this was going to be Jalen Brunson's team. I do think, I don't want to understate Barrett, because I will talk about Barrett as well, but I think the Brunson development and what has happened at Team USA, I think, is very, very good news for the New York Knicks.
It's a great question. Is Jalen Brunson underrated or overrated at this point? I think you could probably make an argument both ways. What's kind of wild when you think about it, Brunson's never made an all-star team, let alone an all-NBA team. You just assume, he's kind of viewed as such as one of the top 15, 20 best players in the NBA. And obviously among this group of guys where Edwards was an all-star, Halliburton was an all-star over Brunson, plenty of other talented, top-tier players. But Brunson's kind of established himself. So, I do think he's a little bit underrated at this point. Again, as you mentioned, still kind of coming out of that shadow of a 2nd-round pick as a guy that, wasn't really, universally pursued on the free agent market, even though everyone basically assumed he was, destined for New York. But still, his $100 million contract seems like an insane, value, even more so now than we thought so in the days to come. But I'll be interested to see. It's one of those things we can check out too. Like, what are the MVP odds on Brunson coming into the season? Because if the Knicks somehow get a top 2-3 seed, we'll talk about the craziness in Philly. Boston now with Porzingis, a 7'3" dude. We know about his injury history. He's going to miss FIBA because of plantar fasciitis, 4 to 6 weeks of recovery time. Milwaukee dealing with Giannis not playing in FIBA due to knee injuries. He'll likely be fine, but we know about Middleton's injury history. There's a potential there for the East to see a little bit of a shakeup. And if somehow the Knicks can, not go crazy and win 60 games, but win 50 plus games and, sneak into that 2nd, 3rd seed, there will be plenty of buzz about Brunson generating some MVP conversation stuff. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of how it plays out over the next few weeks. And, we still got another couple weeks before the actual season, the actual FIBA tournament starts. So, obviously, I assume he'll continue to play well. He'll certainly get opportunities to play well. But again, just another confidence building, kind of mechanism for Brunson to kind of escalate his game and stature around the league and around the world.
I'm so happy you mentioned the MVP odds, because when I saw the numbers Brunson put up and I see the way he's played, I also wondered. I was like, throwing some ducats down on a Brunson MVP season. I think I probably would pay you a fortune if he somehow wins it. I mean, I don't think that it's a completely insane bet, because we'll talk about Barrett right now, but like, number one, I think the Knicks have a very good chance to start the season off really strong.
And just in reference to the Brunson thing, has there ever been an MVP, a guy, let alone win MVP, but finished top 3 in MVP that was never an All-Star prior to the year? I guess, I don't know if Rose was probably an All-Star the year before he won MVP.
Yeah, he probably, I think he was an All-Star. Yeah, I don't know if he might not have been All-NBA, but
right. Okay, point being, it's obviously very rare for a player to take a jump from non-All-Star to MVP, even consideration.
I know, but I think with the way Brunson is playing, and a guy who appears to be getting better still, I would throw a ducket down potentially on that. And I think that, I'm not saying he would win, but I think he'll be in that race maybe longer than people would expect. Like, we'll maybe still be in February being like, hey, he's still in the mix. And you'll be looking at yourself saying, hey, I'm going to get $10,000 off of this Jalen Brunson bet that I put it in back in August for him to win the MVP. And the thing I was talking about as well with the Knicks starting off well, Barrett also really impressive. I think you got to love to see, one, the shot making and the efficiency. That's one of the biggest things we talked about with RJ Barrett, essentially for most of his career. And it's been the big bugaboo is, can he continue to be effective while remaining efficient? And you have a game where you scored 31 points on 14 shots. That's about as efficient as you can get. I think his jump shot, it's funny. His jump shot looks a little unorthodox, but it seems much smoother now. I think he looks a lot more comfortable shooting the shot, even if it doesn't look like the prettiest. These are swishes that are going through in terms of those spot up threes, and his finishing around the basket really, really solid. I mean, obviously 3 for 14, he's almost perfect finishing around the basket, but it just seemed like he knew exactly where he needed to get to, the right English off the glass. Is RJ Barrett maybe in a position, from what you've seen, because he's pretty much played well during this entire international stretch as well. This 31-point game was the big explosion, but he's been efficient the entire time. Are you maybe looking to see RJ Barrett potentially take a step up this year, given what you've seen so far?
We'll talk about Barrett in a second. I just looked it up on BetUS. Brunson's MVP odds 65-1. So obviously, pretty good odds there. Guys that are ahead of Brunson, just for comparison's sake, Siakam 50-1. All these guys are 50-1. Wow. Siakam, Sabonis, Paul George, Julius Randle, Jamal Murray, Trae Young, James Harden, LOL, Brandon Ingram, Kyrie Irving, and then 40-1 you got the Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Zion Williamson, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell, Dame Lillard. So Shea Gilgeous.
That's a ridiculous list to me. Some of those guys ahead of Brunson, like even Julius. I heard Julius Randle. I was like, what? And it's because to me, so much about MVP is narrative. So like,
yes,
if the Knicks are a great team, Brunson is going to get the credit. That's what's going to happen. So, I'm a little surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised at the number. I'm surprised that some of those guys, Brandon Ingram, that's some of the things I was like, what? Like,
same, also 65-1, Larry Markkinen, Karl Anthony Towns. So that's where Brunson is. So I like the odds, obviously, Brunson. RJ Barrett, yes, probably more important in terms of whether they play well over the next 3 weeks in FIBA. If Knicks fans could choose one guy to dominate and have a quote unquote breakout FIBA tournament, they most would certainly choose Barrett. More important for his confidence, more important for, kind of the carryover effect into the start of next season. And if we're being honest, probably more important for trade conversations. That OG Anunoby stuff is still floating around out there. Again, we'll see how that kind of plays itself out. But, maybe it's good for Tibbs to see RJ take a little bit more of a role, even though, some folks on Twitter act like Barrett wasn't given an opportunity to score. Dude did take 16, 15 shots a night. But yes, we saw, most importantly, is the efficiency we need to see from RJ. Was 5 of 5 from downtown. Again, not going to read too much into it. We've seen RJ get hot for weeks at a time and then go cold for weeks at a time. Thing I want to see from RJ, and a lot of the points he scored. I didn't watch the whole Canada game, just watch the highlights. Was his driving left, and he's going to be able to do that against teams that have this is not NBA scouting reports. These aren't the game 6 of a 7-game series where the Heat have seen him drive left every time he gets the ball, and attempt to slow him down or wall him off and prevent him, force him right, etc. But I did see a couple times where he drove into the lane and threw a hook pass to the corner for a 3. That's the type of stuff that I'd love to see from RJ, kind of diversify his finishing portfolio. Obviously, increase his field goal percentage around and at the rim, but also keep his head up, find open shooters, because he's going to have plenty of opportunities to do that next season. DiVincenzo on the floor, Jalen Brunson, obviously, Quentin Grimes. Those are the type of shots that the Knicks should look to implement more frequently, and RJ can definitely be one of those guys that can increase his assist numbers by doing that, getting into the paint, getting a foot in the paint, in the dot, and then try to kick it out for open threes.
Totally agree on that front. The other thing I thought that stood out to me in the RJ Barrett performance, and like Germany had some smaller wings, but he looks huge. I mean, and it was something that actually, when we talked about it earlier this time, I was a little concerned with. I've been saying I think he needs to drop some pounds to move some quickness, but he was physically imposing going to the rim. I mean, there were times where there's a big man there and almost like the guy wasn't there because he was able to just power through. And RJ Barrett is not necessarily an above the rim athlete. That's not the way he plays the game. He had a little bit more of that explosion earlier in his career. Maybe he is kind of developing and kind of molding more into a bully ball type of player. This was an instance where the bully ball stuff was working extremely well, and it looked like it would, because he looked like he was a man among boys. He's playing against other professional players. I mean, Franz Wagner's on the court, Mo Wagner's on the court, Dennis Schroeder's a point guard, but he also was on the court, and RJ Barrett looks like a man among boys. So if that is something he can continue to translate into actually NBA play when he is playing against other physical strong guys, that's something to watch. I mean, he's still a guy who is not growing in terms of height, but like he's maturing, he's developing, he's getting older. Maybe this is kind of the man body that we're kind of seeing RJ Barrett kind of grow into. Yeah,
it's interesting to see whether he kind of how his kind of career kind of progresses going forward. Whether he kind of views himself as a slasher finisher, or he can improve that 3-point shot. It's weird. We forget how young the kid is. He just would be a year removed from Duke had he not left there. So that's one of the things with Barrett and folks that on Twitter that rightfully and Knicks fans that rightfully defend and refuse to even consider trading him, is that we aren't sure of what his upside is. We have an idea. I think we're probably more in the camp where top tier is like the 3rd best player on a really good team, somewhere along those lines, maybe the 2nd best player, maybe a 4th best player on a really good team, on a championship level team where he can score 25 points if needed, but can also improve, defensively, etc. So, but again, we don't know exactly where that, where that ceiling. Certainly, he views himself as a far better, finisher, scorer, etc. And this is one of those opportunities where he's, kind of, not the man, because SGA is obviously, a phenomenal player himself, is going to have the ball in his hands. And also he looks really good too. I saw a couple highlights where he's, working that in and out dribble and taking a step back 3. If Gilgeous-Alexander starts knocking down threes on a consistent basis, anywhere near like above, if he can shoot like 38% from 3, or, with the way he can score in the paint and off floaters and stuff, that I just don't know how you guard that guy. But yeah, so for Barrett, but there will be games like, and obviously not only did he score 31 points in the victory Sunday, scored the game-winning bucket with a game-tying bucket to force the game into overtime.
Right.
5 seconds left against Germany. Scored 5 more points in overtime. So he was the man on the floor that night, and those are the type of things that when he has to share the floor with Randall and Brunson, he's not going to have quite as many opportunities. So we'll see if he takes advantage of that in Europe this summer.
It's going to be important if he is going for the Knicks, whether it be Brunson, Randall, and also Tibbs, to kind of maybe see Barrett can also be in that role as well. You don't got to relegate him always to being in the corner or being a third option. But it'll be very important to continue to watch what happens with Brunson, Barrett. Also, again, Josh Hart playing for Team USA. He's been playing mostly with their second unit in these in his debut with the Team USA. And then, of course, you got Evan Fournier still playing with France. We got a couple of weeks, almost less than 2 weeks now, well, to the start of the FIBA World Cup in Asia, Japan, Philippines, where that'll be taking place this year. But again, let's go down I-95 because there could be a meltdown in Philadelphia right around the corner. So Sixers All-Star guard James Harden blasted Daryl Morey during an Adidas promotional tour in China, calling the Sixers president, quote, a liar, and saying that he will never be part of an organization that Daryl Morey is a part of. It came after the Sixers reportedly decided not to trade James Harden this season, despite the former MVP's trade request this summer. The mess with Harden has all eyes on Joel Embiid. The Sixers center removed any mention of Philadelphia and Sixers references from his social media pages. And now ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski says Philly is concerned about how the situation with Harden could impact Embiid and his future. He said, quote, this is certainly a situation for Philadelphia that they don't want to domino into Joel Embiid's future. The clock is always ticking on what it means for your best player, and that clock is ticking now for the Sixers and Joel Embiid. So very different than some of the words we were hearing after Joel Embiid's kind of damage control during that the interview with Maverick Carter when he said, I want to win a championship in Philadelphia or anywhere else. Then he said, I want to retire a Sixer and all this stuff. Now you have Wojnarowski saying, quote, the clock is always ticking on what it means for your best player. And that clock is ticking now for the Sixers and Joel Embiid, all because of James Harden. So do you think this James Harden situation could impact Embiid's future in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we have to. It is certainly an outcome where it doesn't, where somehow Harden and Morey bury the piece at least for a year. Again, there's a couple things here with the Harden situation. It's wild to me that he called his boss a liar and then said, "Let me say it again. I'm not the man is a liar." Like he said it twice, bro. He said, "I'm never gonna work for him." Like he just there's subtle stuff like Joel Embiid kind of scrubbing the social media. He removed processing for those that hadn't heard. He removed processing from his Twitter bio. He removed the city of Philadelphia from his location. So like that kind of, a passive aggressive type of, behind the scenes quiet stuff. And then you have going in front of a bunch of people and saying, this man is a liar. I'll never work for him again. I don't know how they come back from that. This is the NBA. So we've seen crazier things happen. But a couple things to note on that end. There is a little-known clause in the CBA that specifically impacts players that are a year removed from free agency, of which Harden is obviously a member because he opted into the final year of his contract.
Yes.
If he does not report to his team, the CBA clause refers to it as withholding his services. So if he does not show up for camp, if he does not show up for preseason games, does not show up for the regular season for a 30-day span, he is not eligible to become a free agent. The Sixers hold on to his rights for another full NBA season, which would obviously prevent Harden who doesn't have many years left of the back end of his prime, from signing with another team, for getting traded. So there are all these. It may seem like, oh, Harden's going to play the hard guy. We saw Ramona Shelburne on ESPN say the other day that this is just the beginning. He's going to make it really uncomfortable. I don't know how much worse he can get other than insulting Rocky and cheesesteaks in Philadelphia. So
show up to the game in a Dallas Cowboy jersey. Sure, that'll go over very well.
Right. A Des Bryant or Dak Prescott jersey or something like that. I just, I don't know how much worse he can make things, but listen, from a Knicks perspective, we're obviously keeping an eye on the Embiid possibility, and it can only, you would think, can only decrease the chances of Joel Embiid retiring a Sixer or staying a Sixer. Again, Morey and the Sixers front office viewpoint, I'm sure, is let's just get through the season. Let's get through this year. We were really close to, we were, a terrible game 6 away from advancing to the NBA Finals. Or at least the
East Conference
Finals against the relatively beatable Heat team. So we're close. We were there. A couple breaks fall our way. We can compete, and then next season, Harris comes off the book. PJ Tucker's contract comes off the books. Obviously, Harden's contract will come off the books. We rebuild around Maxey and Embiid, sign another max-level free agent, bring another stud in, whoever Embiid wants to play with, etc. So let's just get through this year. Question is, does Embiid want to waste a year dealing with this circus, this nonsense? So that's the thing and I'll admit, EJ, today was the first day, like I kind of was looking at it, and I saw like some stupid trade on one of those dumb aggregator Twitter handles was like, Grimes and IQ and RJ and 4 first-round picks for Embiid. Do you do it? We've both said it's going to take like more than you would think. It's going to cost them the entire farm, but you can't 4 starters and 4 first round. You have to draw the line somewhere. And it just, and it was the first time I started thinking like, man, I love Embiid. You got to do it, but like, what if he gets hurt? There's an injury history there.
I know.
I'm cool with trading the picks, but do I want to trade all the young guys as well? So that's just kind of where my head was at, and just in a roundabout way to answer your question, like I think we have to start looking, keeping an eye out for the eventual Shams tweet, Woj tweet, where Joel Embiid has approached Sixers management and requested a deal. Is it likely to happen?
Yeah.
No. But listen, is it more than 10%, more than 20% at this stage of the game? I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, this Philly situation is very fascinating, and the Knicks fans have to pay attention. I mean, we have to, because everything we're being told is that Joel Embiid is keeping an eye on New York, and it's something that he has thought about, and that he's been linked to this team over and over again because of his connections to Leon Rose. And I think that for Philadelphia and Josh Harris, it's time for him to be a real NBA owner. And it's very easy to just, take pictures with Meek Mill and take pictures with Allen Iverson and just, kind of be all about being Mr. Philly. But this is where ownership really has to step in and essentially save the franchise. Because I think the Sixers are looking down the barrel of an absolute disaster, like a complete disaster. And it's going to be up to real leadership, because I'll be honest, I don't think they're getting it from Daryl Morey right now. It's going to take real leadership to find a way to figure out this mess. And maybe that means moving on from Daryl Morey at this point, because if you have a situation where players don't trust the front office, and James Harden, say whatever you want about him, it seems to be liked by his teammates. I mean, PJ Tucker, of course, a guy who came over because James Harden took a bunch of money less, said, look, I'm riding with my dog. Like he said, I don't switch sides. So I don't know how much longer he has in Philadelphia, considering he's coming out saying that I'm supporting the guy who said that my boss is a liar and that he's never going to play for us again. And then you got the Joel Embiid passive aggressive. I mean, he's the franchise player. Like Daryl Morey, and I thought the hubris of even his stance last week, that, and of course this wasn't, statements on the record, it was sources, whatever, but that, we're gonna just bring James back and convince him that we're a championship caliber team. I thought that was ridiculous. Like I think like you're dealing with a person who is completely unwilling to, or rather willing to get as messy and as just gross and as combative as possible to get his way. We've seen this now multiple times in his career. The thought that he could tell him, okay, we're going to try to trade you, and that's beyond whatever behind the scenes deal he may have already promised him last year when he accepted the less money to get PJ Tucker in, that you think that you could tell him, okay, we'll trade you and then say, oh, you know what? Never mind. I didn't get the value I wanted, so therefore I'm going to keep you here and you're going to play with us, and think that that was going to go smoothly. It was a terrible mistake. And I think it speaks to Daryl Morey's mindset as a front office member, because I think he made the same mistake with the Ben Simmons thing. I mean, but he was so hell-bent on getting a superstar, quote unquote, and getting a guy who was going to make the Sixers better, which is apparently what he's saying now with James Harden, that I'm not going to trade him unless I get a better player. What the hell does that even mean? He passed up on the possibility of having a De'Aaron Fox. He passed up on the opportunity of having a Tyrese Halliburton. Like, he couldn't see the forest through the trees of just trying to build this, this analytic darling, superstar-driven team, that he actually missed the boat on building a better Sixers team, a team that actually would have had a better chance of going to the playoffs, going deep into the postseason, because he was so bent on getting the quote-unquote star player, the better player than Ben Simmons. He's going to try to do the same thing with Harden, but there's a difference. Harden is 34 years old. Harden is a guy that's coming off all these injuries. He is not in the same boat as Ben Simmons, as crazy as that sounds, a guy who was a young player who we thought was ascending. Like, this is a whole different situation. So the idea that this is their mindset, they're saying, oh, well, we're not going to do anything and we're going to just sit and wait this thing out. Like, Josh Harris has to do something. Like, if he thinks he can sit here and just let this thing fall apart, that's what it's going to happen. It's going to completely crumble. And eventually we're going to see that Woj, that Shan's tweet, Joel Embiid has requested a trade. His preference is to go to the New York Knicks. Like, I think that is 100% the reality of Josh Harris to step in immediately and start showing some leadership.
I can't disagree with you, because there needs to be an adult in the room right now. And as somebody said, like, the Sixers' approach of getting into a I don't give a F contest with James Harden is a dangerous game to play, because we have seen him win that game over and over again. He does not.
He's never lost. He's LeVar Ball. He's undefeated and never lost. He's won every single one. OKC. He's won in Houston. Won in Brooklyn. You think he's gonna lose this one?
He's not. And especially the way that the game is played in the NBA and player empowerment, etc. It is a nasty situation, and I don't see it getting any better without someone, like you said, stepping in and saying, okay, here's the outcomes. James, you're not going to waste a year. You're not going to sit out an entire year and then have to beg us to trade you again or try to force us to trade you again 12 months from now. That doesn't work for you. Daryl, listen, I understand, you've dug in and you've made the statements you made, but is it the best outcome scenario? The issue, of course, now is that the Clippers, if they were willing to give up 30 cents in the dollar, 3 days ago, they'll give up 7 cents in the dollar, because, but maybe.
And that's why this strategy was so stupid by Daryl Morey, because you continue to kneecap your leverage by being so forceful and not being open to potentially making a move here, because James Harden is going to force you to make a move. And then once you have to make that move, you're not going to get anything that you want. And if it becomes a situation where you give him away for essentially nothing, that's when Joel Embiid says, all right, what's going on here? Like, if you were at the opportunity, we'd say, you know what, we'll just take man and a pick and we'll try to just figure this thing out. Maybe we'll make another trade with man to get another guy who's a kind of a close to a star player. And we'll try to, like, this doesn't look like you have a plan. It looks like you're just saying, I'm in a fight and I'm gonna fight till I win or die. That seems to be kind of the strategy. And if you're running a multi-billion-dollar organization, it's an extremely foolish way to run your business.
100%. And again, these teams that take these chances on guys like Harden and Kyrie Irving, we see it again and again, enticed by the talent, but don't realize, like, look at the guy's track record. How has this worked out? So if you want to get rid of Ben Simmons for Harden, I guess, it's what's amazing is Ben Simmons is probably the worst contract in the league. Making $80 million, I think, over the next 2 seasons. The only thing that would make this worse for Philly is if Embiid actually shows up in camp in shape and starts playing at a decent level and contributes to the Nets. Then the Sixers fans
Simmons,
riot,
Yes. Yeah, that would be the ultimate nightmare. So we'll see how this whole situation plays out. I think the Knicks are paying close attention. I don't think this is going to end up well, because I don't think that we've seen that kind of leadership from Josh Harris to make the difficult decisions and to really sit down everybody and be the adult in the room. I think that's been an ownership that's been very cosmetic, quite frankly, in how they've kind of presented the organization. And they've had star coaches, star players. Again, they kind of embraced the Philadelphia celebrities, all that, and still the result has always been the same: second round exit. And the fact that there hasn't really been that real leadership, I think has been a major problem. I think it's why this is going to continue to be a mess. So we'll continue to follow that story. I'm sure Dame Lillard is probably wonderfully pleased that this has happened, because it's kind of taken a lot of heat off of him. No pun intended. He actually wants heat on him, literally. But yeah, we'll continue to follow that story as it continues. So the full NBA schedule will be out on Thursday, but we got a little taste of what will be in store for the Knicks this season. So on Tuesday, the schedule was unveiled for the Knicks in-season tournament group play slate. So they'll begin on the road Friday with games on Friday, November 3rd against the Bucks, and then November 17th, 2 weeks later on Friday against the Wizards. Then they'll wrap up group play the following week with a Friday home game against the Heat on November 24th, and then a Tuesday game versus Charlotte on November 28th, and that would wrap up the in-season group play stage. Remember, the team that finishes with the best record in group play will advance to the knockout stage quarterfinal games. There is also a chance that you could become a wild card team if you have the best record among the non-group play winners of the conferences. There are 3 groups in each conference. There'll be 4 teams in each conference who advance. There'll be 1 wild card. So the Knicks have a chance, if they don't win the group, they could still advance to the knockout stage. Also, Knicks will be featured on Christmas Day again this season. Knicks will be hosting the Bucks. It appears that will be a noon slate, though Shams Charania had gotten some times wrong last year, so we'll see if these times are accurate. These are the times he listed, or at least the teams he listed in the same row, or in consecutive order regarding the games that will be featured on Christmas Day. So you had Knicks hosting the Bucks first, then you had Sixers at Heat, Celtics at Lakers, Mavericks at Suns, and then Warriors at Nuggets. This will be the 3rd straight year the Knicks will be playing on Christmas Day. Knicks historically been a staple on Christmas Day. So first, on the in-season tournament, thoughts on how the group play scheduling came out and how they set it up here.
Yeah, seems cool. Like I said, I got to familiarize myself with it. I think we'll all have to go through it for a year and kind of see, do the players take it seriously? Do the coaches take it seriously? Do they not sit guys out to make sure they're healthy and ready for the following game, et cetera? Just for instance, the WNBA Champions Cup final was played yesterday. Shout out to Liberty, who shockingly dominated the Aces for the 2nd straight game. I got to admit, I was surprised by that. As well as Stewie and Sabrina and those girls and Sloot have been playing.
Jonquil Jones has been absolutely amazing.
She's really turned their season around.
Yeah, and she was the MVP of the Commissioner's Cup.
Yeah. But it didn't seem like I'm not too. Yeah, I don't have too many WNBA, Twitter follows and friends and et cetera. So I don't know how much energy or excitement there was kind of invested in that. Obviously the players took it seriously. They, celebrated with champagne, et cetera. But then the Liberty and Aces are playing again, I think tomorrow night, right? Thursday night.
Right. Yeah. They play again.
It's weird. Like, it's a big game, but it's not all that important in the grand scheme of things. So I think it's kind of a fun little diversion, give us something to talk about, give us something to, maybe amp up the pressure a little bit and kind of give us a taste of kind of a preseason. Maybe that'll be good for Randall should the Knicks make a little run and play some, in-season tournament finals games in Las Vegas in December. You can kind of show like, hey, like I'm ready for the big stage, or we'll see kind of how this plays out. But I don't really know how to comment on it until I kind of get a feel for it once we get into the midst of the regular season.
Yeah, I thought. Again, I've been a proponent of the in-season tournament. I remain a proponent of the in-season tournament. I thought the group play stage should have been a lot closer together. I know the NBA, I guess, wanted to make it clear that Tuesdays and Fridays are when these games will be played, so everybody kind of knows Tuesdays and Fridays. I think it would have been better off just like how the World Cup goes, where it's just like this block of the NBA season is the in-season tournament. So I think it should have just been November 3rd, okay, your first game. And then you just, that for the next 2 weeks, you're doing the group play part of the season. And I think that would have made a little more sense because it's going to be kind of, I think, hard for some people to kind of maybe, have a group play game and then kind of go play 3 or 4 more different games that aren't group play. And then 2 weeks later, okay, we're back to in-season tournament again. Like, it's a little weird. I don't know if I would have done it that way. As far as the Knicks slate goes, again, I think the earlier you get the Bucks, the better because they'll be less engaged. So the fact that they're playing them the first game, then the third, maybe there's a better chance, Giannis is coming back from an injury. Maybe there's a better chance that they have a chance to get a Bucks team, maybe not necessarily playing all their best players, or even if they are, maybe not going necessarily 100% in those games. But still excited about it. I want to see how it plays out. I really think the Knicks are going to find their way into that knockout stage. I don't know why. I don't know if it means they win this group because it's not an easy group. And again, you got the Heat and the Bucks in there. But I just have a feeling that with the way that things go with the Knicks, that it's going to kind of become an internet meme and a thing where it's like, oh, the Knicks have a chance to put up a banner. And it's going to be the conversation of how Knicks fans reacting to the in-season tournament play. And it's going to be, because Knicks fans, they rally around their team and their fan base, and no one else is going to be Knicks fans versus everybody else. And I just see it. I see it. I see it as clear as day. And I guess it will be interesting to see how that all plays out. What did you think of how the Christmas slate played out? So you got Knicks and Bucks to start that slate. Knicks playing again on Christmas Day. Then you got those other games again. Sixers at Heat, Celtics at Lakers, Mavericks at Suns, Warriors at Nuggets. Maybe, as I said on my WFAN show on Saturday, maybe I'm being a little, Homer EJ. Maybe I'm being a little orange and blue blood EJ here. I kind of think Knicks and Bucks could have got a better time than noon. The Knicks have kind of been that noon game because they've, quite frankly, most of the time been the worst team playing on Christmas Day, so no beef with that. But, I mean, I don't know. Sixers Heat, is that really bringing people to the their TVs in the afternoon of Christmas when NFL games are happening at that point? Remember, there are going to be 3 games on Christmas Day this year. We don't know. Who knows what the hell's happening with James Harden? We don't actually know if Dame Lillard is going to be a Miami Heat member yet. It's probably likely, but we don't know. I thought that game was kind of a dud in this slate. I liked a lot of the other games for the most part, but I thought, man, Giannis Antetokounmpo coming to Madison Square Garden for a Christmas Day game against a Knicks team that was really good last season. That seems like a really great in the national TV kind of spotlight. I was surprised that they put him on at noon.
Listen, selfishly, I don't like the noon starts. We do Christmas Eve on our side, so, and then on the Christmas Day, we go up to my in-laws in Connecticut. We usually leave around 1:00. So I'm not a big fan of the, I listen to the radio though. Shout out to the Knicks radio guys. But I agree. I think, in years past, the Knicks had been the noon game just because you want the New York market, and it's just kind of a tradition. Madison Square Garden, Christmas Day, etc. Even when the Knicks were terrible, a few years they weren't. But if the Knicks had any type of respectability, you'd throw them in there and kind of almost a get out of the way game early in the day when people are, throwing away their, playing with their presents and cleaning up after the kids, etc. So, I agree. I think the Knicks, a good Knicks team, generating a lot of buzz and excitement going into the season against the Bucks should have been the 3:30, 5:30 game. Obviously, the West Coast games are going to get, they can't start at noon. Right. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I would have preferred that the Knicks were a little bit later. I think they probably deserved the later slate.
And then also, I think you make a good point about the traditional aspect as well, because again, that's something that people know. So that's another reason why the Knicks could have been later. But also, how the Nuggets potentially playing at 10:30, like that to me is highly disrespectful. I mean, this is the defending NBA champions. We had all this talk about how the Nuggets aren't that real and they're boring, and they dominated the NBA playoffs, and they get you're getting the Golden State Warriors, a preeminent NBA franchise. If I'm the Warriors, I'm also livid. I'm like, what the hell? I have Steph Curry and Draymond Green, and we're 4 or 5-time champions, and we got to play at 10:30 on Christmas Day. What the hell? On the road? Like, they also got it. Both of those teams should be livid, I think, to have them pushed all the way back, while you got a team like the Mavericks did not make the playoffs last year. Like, I understand Kyrie Irving is a talented player. We know Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the world. And the Suns, you got Booker, you got KD, and now you got Bradley Beal. And there's the, whole not Chris Paul thing. There's a whole, KD and Kyrie. I know there's some stuff there. That stuff could have been settled at 10:30, in my opinion. Like, I don't know how you're the NBA champions and you're a Mountain Time team. So it's not like you're a team where you're a Pacific Time team. You're a Mountain Time team. You're being told you got to play the latest game. It's at home, but you got to play the latest game. Like, that to me was absolutely ridiculous, and I don't understand it. And I'm mad as an NBA fan because I want to see Warriors Nuggets at 5 o'clock, at 8 o'clock. I don't want to have to stay up after being up all day to finally have to say, okay, best game of the night. I gotta wait till 10:30 to watch. That to me was absurd.
Good point. It'll be interesting when the NBA releases its schedule tomorrow. How many national TV dates the Nuggets have? Because obviously they're a great team with the best player on the planet. And then ratings were good for the finals. So it'll be that's one thing we can keep an eye on and talk about on Friday.
Yeah. Overall, I was a little underwhelmed by the slate. I felt like there were teams that were left off that I think maybe don't have the biggest markets, but are really exciting and rated well during the playoffs. Like, I would have loved to see the Sacramento Kings play the Warriors on Christmas Day. Like, that was a great first round matchup, and they have a really exciting team. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers actually would have been a nice matchup as well for the Knicks, maybe. If you're going to do a noon slate kind of game, like, I think if you're going to play the Bucks, they shouldn't have been at noon. If you're going to do a noon slate game, I think that like Knicks Cavs would have been a great way to start the day. To see somebody like, I think sometimes the NBA is kind of they can't get off the KD, Steph, LeBron narcotic. It's like,
right,
we know those guys are great, but like, okay, do I have to see all of them on Christmas Day? Like, I don't know. I think they could have spread the wealth a little bit. Obviously, Ja Morant, his situation, Zion, his situation makes it very difficult to put those guys on, and maybe that's part of the reason why we're getting so many of the old heads on Christmas. But that was probably the only thing for me. I was like, I think they could have diversified this slate a little bit with some smaller market teams that have some really exciting players that went on some really great runs and rated well during the playoff run. True.
But hopefully the Knicks are playing well enough that will still be a legitimate beef in late December.
That is true as well. But I think that's a good place to leave it. So I want to thank you guys so much for listening into this episode of Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast and Audacy WFAN original. It's a podcast you can get wherever you get your podcasts, including the free Audacy app. Be sure to hit the auto download feature on your streaming service. Get these episodes every time we drop. We drop twice a week. And of course, again, we have the NBA schedule reveal coming out this week. So we'll have the full schedule to talk about later this week. So that should be a lot of fun. And of course, you can catch us as well on YouTube. You can find us on the WFAN page where we post a full podcast and segments from the podcast. So if listening to us is not enough, you can watch our beautiful faces on your TV, your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever you're doing on YouTube. Tommy, let people know where they can find you.
At Tommy Beer on Twitter.
You can find me, EJ_Stewart on Twitter, Action EJ on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you guys again so much for checking us out. For Tommy, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.